Hi guys, it's Allison Angeles from Silicon Sanctuary Podcast and YouTube Allison Angeles. I'm going to give you an entertaining, quick synopsis on the plant paradox. Plant paradox, the hidden dangers in healthy foods that cause disease and weight gain by Stephen R. Gundry, MD, New York Times bestseller, The Plant Paradox. I just got done listening to it on Audible. And that's my new way of digesting content in large forms other than, for books. It's great. So I highly recommend it. But let's get into this about Dr. Stephen Gundry's idea about the plant paradox. Why does he call it paradox? Because plants are amazing sources of nutrition, yet they have a product in them called lectins. And his book, the whole premise of his book is mostly built around this idea of being aware of lectins, what they are, what they do, and how to eliminate most lectins in your diet that will promote healing in your digestive tract, gut healing, and then also promote weight loss. And also he talks about how his program, the Plant Paradox program, actually cures things such as cancer, Parkinson's, coronary artery disease, dementia, diabetes, and any number of other gut diseases, autoimmune disease, lupus, etc. So I've always wanted to know about specifics about nutrition. I'm very interested in it. I've done a previous recording with a friend and colleague of mine, Laura Facto, who runs Palo Alto Nutrition, who's a gut health expert. And I, consider myself an athletic person, and I've always been very interested in optimal nutrition. And so I'm going to try to break this down for you in a way that you can at least decide whether or not you're interested in listening to it on Audible or, in fact, reading the book yourself. And I do highly recommend it. I think he's an amazing physician. I think he's completely credible and legitimate, and he's done a lot of the work for us that, we can't do on etymology and nutrition. So again, let's talk about the lectins. Lectins are found in plants. Plants use lectins to keep predators from eating them. They are very interested in not having predators eat them. So insects, birds, and humans as well. So they primarily use lectins in their seeds, and their seeds are essentially, as Dr. Gundry puts it, are their babies. And so they're programmed to get people, insects, other animals, and birds to not eat their seeds. And how do they do that? They put a covering on their seeds in the form of a lectin, which is a protein binding molecule, which also is very upsetting to your digestional tract, and is very upsetting to animals as well. And it causes things like leaky gut, diarrhea, nausea, and weight gain also for humans that are not interested in gaining weight. So talk a little bit more about what kind of plants have high amount of lectins. And number one that he lists, the number one contributor is whole wheat. So the paradox also is that we've promoted what we call health foods recently, and whole wheat grains was in the list. And he says that there are many things that we're eating that are passed off as health foods, but they're actually anything but that. So whole wheat grain, or WGA, wheat germ, what's the last part? I'll look it up. Wheat germ and then the A, I don't know what it stands for. But these are things that are very, very high in lectins, cannot be digested, and causes leaky gut, which allows inflammation to occur. And when inflammation occurs, all of our energy in our body goes to that site to fight off the disruptor. And that also causes fat storage, because fat is needed to provide energy to fight off the offending substance that we're putting in our body. So whole wheat, number one on his list of lectin items that we eat that create dishealth, disease, inflammation, weight gain, and other sources of problems in our body. Okay, other ones, anything with seeds, tomatoes, zucchinis, bell peppers. These are things that have high amounts of lectin in their seeds. Other things, peanuts. Peanuts are not a nut. And peanuts, as you know, are, cause a lot of allergies because they're extremely high in lectin content. Cashews, another thing that is not a nut. Although we call it a cashew nut, it's not a nut. Very high in lectin, very upsetting for the digestive tract. Okay, other things are lentils and eggplants, legumes, beans. Now, he talks about ways to prepare legumes and beans because they're very great sources of protein and nutrition, particularly for people that are, vegans and vegetarians. And he talks about using a high-pressure cooker to destroy all the lectins in them. So if you use a high-pressure cooker, he recommends a Cuisinart, and I can't remember what the other one is. I think it is the Instapot, and that will pressurize and destroy the lectins. There's also at Whole Foods stores, there are 2 brands of beans that are canned, non-BHP cans, by the way, and you can buy those and they'll say that they're pressure cooked. So those are safe for people to eat and better sources of nutrition. All grains, so grains, again, whole grain wheats, oatmeal. Oh, so disappointed to hear about that. Just because I've been on this oatmeal kick because I'm trying not to eat dairy. Well, in fact, yes, dairy is not good for you. And he talks about that in detail as well, because all animals contain a molecule that humans don't have. And what we eat when we eat their products or we eat animal meat, we ingest this hormone or this molecule, and it's called Nu5HG. We have Nu5AC. That's our sugar digesting molecule, but theirs is Nu5HG. When we consume milk, usually it's not the lactose that we have a problem with, it's the Nu5HG. And it's like a barcode. When we eat anything, it's like a barcode in our body, and the cells in our body know how to utilize the nutrients, how to put into waste the ones that are things that are not good for us, are toxic, and how to absorb and use the other ones for energy and for nutrient sources. Well, the barcode on Nu5HG, which is only found in animals, is disruptive to our body. So that's why they say when we eat a lot of red meat, a lot of meat has Nu5HG, we're consuming large amounts of that. Our body tries to fight it off. So it immediately goes to that site. It reads the barcode, unfamiliar, and it goes and it creates what's called inflammation. So inflammation is when our cells don't like something that we've ingested. The other additional problem with eating a lot of animal products, wait, don't get turned off yet, because he talks about proteins and how we can use animal products for protein and plant products for protein as well. But how to work with the Nu5HG that they contain. Well, you've heard about A2 milk. A2 comes from a different type of cow that doesn't have the HG, Nu5HG. So that's why A2 milk doesn't cause indigestion and inflammation. So he highly recommends that. The secondary problem with the Nu5HG in animal products is that our AC molecule looks so similar to it that our cells start fighting not only the foreign object of the Nu5HG, but it also fights our own Nu5AC, which is what we use to feed on our sugar molecules. And that's when you get an autoimmune disease, when our body is fighting off helpful cells that our body needs. So that's a lot of people that get lupus and other autoimmune diseases. That's what's happening in their body. They're fighting off their own cells that are beneficial. All right, so that was a rabbit hole. I just went down. Back to the lectins. Things that have seeds: tomatoes, zucchini, bell peppers, eggplants, legumes. Remember how we can pressure cook those. Peanuts, not a nut. Very, very toxic, actually. Cashews, not a nut. Same thing. Very troublesome to digest. All grains, particularly whole grain wheats, oatmeal. Now he talks about rice. The primary source of the lectins in rice is found in the husk, the outer husk. We've been told, in the past that brown rice is better than white rice. Well, for centuries, the Japanese population and Asian population has been taking off the outer husk of the brown rice and leaving it to white rice. Now, why is that? Well, it's a lot easier for the body to consume and use as nutrients and digest. And the brown part, although carries some nutrients, mostly carries the lectin. Remember, the thing that the plant uses to dissuade predators from eating it. And it's very highly toxic to our digestive system, creates leaky gut, and I'm just giving you a brief overview. Remember, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor, obviously, clearly. I'm just giving you a quick bio breakdown on this book. You can always go to Dr. Stephen Gundry's website and read more details about his book, and also download the book or get the book. Okay, so as far as starches, these are all things that I didn't know. These are my personal takeaways. So the best starches are resistant starches. So what does that mean? These are starches that they don't break down quickly, so they sustain us and they fight off the hunger hormone that we feel, which is the ghrelin hormone, which is the sensation you feel when you're hungry. Yams, plantains, and taro. Well, most of us, if you live in the anywhere but the French Polynesia or Polynesian islands, we don't eat or the southern continents, we don't eat a lot of plantains and taro. But we do have access to yams, such a good resource. Resistant starches, again, regular starches, what happens with them is they immediately change to glucose. Glucose is one of the main causes of creating diseases such as diabetes and any number of gut diseases, because our body cannot take on that much glucose because of the chemical reactions that it causes. I'm giving a very brief overview. Okay, so best starches: yams, plantains, taro. Bad starches: corn, brown rice, wheat, and potatoes. Okay, so simple potatoes. Try to eliminate them from your diet. I think he basically is really talking about people that have struggled with either obesity, cancer, Parkinson's, coronary heart disease, dementia, diabetes, and any number of these gut diseases, autoimmune diseases. So, but if you're feel pretty functional, pretty healthy, still, I would be very interested in knowing what are the best nutrients that you can eat for your brain health, heart health, stamina, longevity, just fully functioning human, right? Other surprising things that are not healthy that have been touted as healthy: goji berries, high in lectins, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, sunflower seeds. Yes, these are not things that our ancestors ate. These are modern, recent inventions for foods, and they're high in lectins. Yeah, not ancestral foods and loaded with lectins. Okay, type of oils that are bad for you. Obviously, canola oil, cottonseed oil, soy oil, peanut oil, anything that's polyunsaturated omega-6 fats. They incite inflammation, which creates a war in your system, which causes you to store fat, and inflammation is never good, ever. What are the good oils? Well, I have a list somewhere here, but I know it's walnut oil, avocado oil, olive oil, those types of oils. These are our good fats, okay? All right, so that's the basic simple list of the lectin issue. Just being aware of it and, making wise choices. Okay, other things he talks about for ultimate health, obviously we don't want endocrine disruptors. Endocrine system, you might be aware of by now, and that's all about how our body distributes and processes hormones. So we don't want anything that imbalances our hormones. Endocrine disruptors are, soy is notorious for it, anything with estrogens in it, the antibiotics that they put in grains that then the cow consumes, and then you drink the milk, you're getting a lot of those antibiotics and also the estrogens. So these are endocrine disruptors, and I'm just putting those down very basically. I'm going to look it up. Endocrine disruptors. Also, the things that are coating the pans, the non-stick pans, I'm sure you guys have heard of that too. Another endocrine disruptor. Okay, other ones too, that the other things that he talks about, any kind of pain medication, Advil, Aleve, Excedrin, all of those, very, very toxic, very bad for your microbiome. I avoid taking those things at all costs. Don't just pop them like candy, like they're health foods. I do, at all costs, I try not to take anything like that. Any kind of prescription drugs, I've taken in the past. I don't take any of those. So he talks about those. Avoid those at all costs. Okay. Endocrine disruptors. When absorbed in the body, endocrine disruptor can decrease or increase normal hormone levels. Okay. What are some samples? Oh, again, pesticides. It's kind of obvious. Okay. So let's just skip out of that one. Okay. So back to lectins, eliminate. Endocrine disruptors, be aware of where they are, eliminate. Polyunsaturated omega-6 bad fats creates inflammation, gut disruption, get rid of them. Okay, so it's all about gut health. The gut has this more of the communication material than we have in our brain. So they call it our second brain, right? And it's communicating with all the different cells in our body to tell us, what it wants more of, what it wants it to feed it. So what he talks about is eliminating all the bad communication to get the bad things. So when you're eating a lot of and have a lot of disruption in your gut, those microbiome, those things, they try to get fed. And what they use to feed them usually is sugar. So sugar feeds the bad guys. Okay, so when you get rid of sugar, you starve out the bad guys, they disappear. Now let's feed the good guys with probiotics, feeding the good gut biome, and prebiotics. Let's feed the good gut biome, which helps us to thrive and flourish and to live long and prosper. Okay. Okay. So you've heard of all the different diets, paleo, keto, et cetera, et cetera. He kind of has things with most of them. He calls himself an aquatarian. So he talks about removing all the lectins. He has mostly a plant-based diet, but mostly eats wild caught fish and seafood and mollusks because they don't contain that new 5-HG, and they're high in nutrients, they're high in protein, and they also are completely non-toxic if they're wild. I don't know if I can say completely, but for the most part, great sources of protein and nutrients. Okay, so aquatarian. Okay, eating good fats stimulates leptin. Leptin is the thing that tells us that we're full, and it cancels out the ghrelin hormone. The ghrelin is when we feel hungry. Have you ever had those days where you're just hungry all day because your ghrelin's really just going off? When you eat certain things, it stops that hunger craving, and one of it is good fats. What's a good source of good fat? Avocado. Having a whole avocado or half of avocado. Good oils like the olive oil, walnut oil, and I'll find my list on those in a second. And MCT, medium triglyceride. I can't remember what the C stands for. Also, Dave Asprey, very big on MCT oil. I've used it before. You can buy it at Whole Foods and other places that sell whole foods and true health foods. He says limit animal protein intake, and I think that's because of he talks that in the Western United States, mostly our animals are fed corn and grains, and whatever they eat, when we eat them, that's what we're ingesting. So he had a study done, and European and Asian cultures, they tested for how much they took a strand of hair and did the DNA on it, and they detected that they had 5% corn, and the Western United States had 60% from animal consumption. Animals in the wild do not eat corn and grains. Animals like cows, for example, they eat grass. Now, why don't they have them just eating grass? Places that producing animals to sell animal meat, because grass doesn't make them fat. Corn makes them fat, and obviously the bigger and fatter the animal is, the more product that they have. So they feed them grains and corn, and also when they're doing that, often they'll do a genetically modified corn. So it's something that won't get fungus or bacteria. They'll also put antibiotics in the grain as well. So these animals are consuming those things, and then you're consuming the animal. Corn is a very high lectin producing product. Those corn kernels are essentially its seed, high in lectins, again, triggering inflammation and causing high weight gain. Remember, because they promote inflammation, where inflammation is, body stores fat to reserve energy. So that's why the cows and animals that get fed corn get fat. You've heard, corn fed, right? There's a reason for that. So eliminate corn out of your diet. So that means you have to minimize the amount of animal products that you intake, or eat grass-fed foods, meats, or the shellfish, mollusks, and wild farmed fish. They say that the regular fish, the farm fish, the wild caught, as opposed to the farm, that they feed them corn as well that has antibiotics in it. So you're getting that when you eat those fish that are created in fish farms. You can eat carbs in the form of plants and starch that with the lectins our bodies or microbes that our body is familiar with, or with the low amount of lectins as possible. For example, spinach doesn't have lectins. Broccoli doesn't have lectins. Kale doesn't have lectins. And I'm not even giving the huge list. By the way, look on his website and he gives you the list of things that are healthy to eat that have high nutrients. Moderate to low animal protein. Moderate to none sugar, okay? Sugar plus animal protein, by the way, is associated with aging, weight gain, and disease. If you didn't know that, spell it out for you. The Plant Paradox Program. 4 rules. 1, what you stop eating is more important than what you start eating. That's number 1. Number 2, care and feeding of your gut bugs, the good ones. Number 3, fruit is candy. He's not down with fruit at all. Like 0 fruit is better. Fruit is high, obviously, in fructose. Fructose creates an insulin spike, causes, there's only so much fructose that your body can consume and digest. It's a very small amount. Okay, and then don't forget that some fruit has seeds in it too. Again, the lectin situation. So fruit is candy. Fructose swells the kidneys, injures the kidneys as well, because again, it's only so much you can digest. The only good fruits, he says, okay, and these sound very delicious, tropical fruits, green papaya, green mango, and avocado, because that's a fruit. Anything with seeds is fruit, by the way. The tomato, remember, that's a fruit. Eggplant's a fruit, but those are bad things for you. So green papaya, good. Green papaya, green mango, avocado, and then green banana flour to use to bake. Okay, and I found all of these the other day at the Country Sun and other Whole Foods. So number 4 rule is you are what the thing you're eating ate. Okay, so in his diet, he talks about healing your gut. Phase 1 is a 3-day cleanse. Phase 2 is 2 weeks of eliminating all the toxic things that you've been eating. The lectins, the starches, the bad oils, alcohol, endocrine disruptors, sugars, etc. That's phase 2. And then phase 3 is the ongoing lifestyle, healthy eating diet. Okay. In a very fat nutshell, I have so many more notes. Oh, by the way, it's wheat germ agglutinin. Bad. WGA. Look it up. High in lectin. It's in a lot of things. Okay. I'm Allison Angeles, your host of Silicon Sanctuary, just giving you the breakdown on Dr. Stephen Gundry's book, The Plant Paradox. Highly recommend it. I listened to it on Audible. Thanks for listening, guys.